There are a number of critics in Pakistan, India, and other parts of the world who outrightly reject Marxism without, uh, carefully studying it. This is what Acharya Prashant has also done, a famous YouTuber and a sort of Indian intellectual. I happened to see one of his podcast uh, titled Marxism, the Fatal Blow, Acharya Prashant 2026. Now, there are a number of things which are not, I think, factually correct. For instance, he declared that Marx was from a bourgeoisie class, and he tried to create an impression that Marx only talked about the bourgeoisie and the laborer, although Marx has talked about a number of classes in society, including feudal class, proletariat, lumpen proletariat, industrial class, middle class, bourgeoisie class, petty bourgeoisie class. And factually, it is incorrect to say that Marx was from a bourgeoisie class. Neither was Lenin from a bourgeoisie class, and most of the Soviet leadership. At best, one can describe them from a middle class section of middle class, or maybe upper middle classes. Yes, of course, Engels could be described as a sort of industrialist or as a part of bourgeois class. I think Acharya is also mistaken when he says that most of the Indian communists are uh, from the bourgeoisie class. Again, there could be exceptions from bourgeoisie class, but as far as I know, most of them are from either middle class or upper middle class. And by the way, most of the Brahman in India, most of the people from bourgeoisie class, historically, they are not from Brahman category or Brahman class. They are rather from Vaishyas. So if you look at most of the billionaires, they are not from Brahman class either. So I think I do not know where did he read this all. Now, if you look at that entire debate, the emphasis of Acharya Saab or Parashant Saab was that Marxism failed. And I don't know where did he read that. He said that somebody born in a capitalist class would always think about capitalist class. That is absolutely wrong. Marx has never said that. As a general principle, he says that there is a general tendency, but he has always talked about exception. Even Marx has also talked about the class, and it's not possible that most of the utopian socialists uh, they were not from lower classes. So Marx had seen that experience. He had criticized. So he would not say that everything is determined by class. Of course, class is one of the biggest factors, but as a general rule, this is correct that if you are from capitalist class, then you will protect your interests. But Marx did not say that it is inherent in class, but basically it is because of the competition that will force capitalists to work for the maximization of his profits. That's why when Marx talks about alienation, he also tries to in a way liberate capitalists, because it's not only laborers or workers who are determined by an economic system that is heavily dependent on profit, but even the capitalist has to carry out actions, or he has to act according to the principles of market. So capitalist in a way is also slave to that economy of competition. So is laborer. So when Marx talks about ending alienation, that alienation or abolition of alienation would not be confined to working class only, but it would be extended to the capitalists in one way or another. Now, when we talk about exception and generalization, Prashant Acharya Saab should know that, of course, most of the capitalists would protect their interests. And Marx has talked about the declassing element, and he did believe that there could be some individual who could betray their class and join the working class, or at least support the cause of the working class. But as a general principle, he said that the capitalist, he did not say, nowhere did he say that if you are born in a capitalist family, you would always support your class. He did not say that specifically as claimed by Acharya Sahib, Prashant Acharya Sahib, or sorry, Acharya Prashant Sahib. Now let's talk about how do we assess that an ideology is successful or not successful. So let's not exceptionalize, let's generalize. And I think I would have to do a number of episodes to counter the arguments of Prashant Saab, Acharya Prashant Saab, and I would focus on his main emphasis that Marxism, in a way, is a failed ideology. It is a deterministic ideology. Again, I do not know where did he read that because Marx has said nothing is eternal, final, sacred, but the change. So I don't think that that sounds like determinism. That sounds like where dynamism. That sounds that the theory is very dynamic. And then, as I have already counted, that he said that Marx was from capitalist class. Marx was not from capitalist or bourgeoisie class. He was from section of upper middle class. And then I think he also misquoted Lenin, and the reason as to why revolution did not take place in advanced capitalist world Lenin has given a different reason, and I think perhaps he has said that since the capitalist class of advanced capitalist countries plundered working class and colonies, and some of that plundering also benefited the working class of advanced capitalist countries. That's why they were somehow neutralized and deprived of their revolutionary spirit. About this is a common misperception that Marx said that revolution would take place in advanced capitalist countries. He did talk about a possibility. He did talk about the potential of the working class because the material conditions in advanced capitalist countries existed that Marx talked about are prerequisite for revolution. But at the same time, he also said that capitalist class in those countries is very powerful, and it is very difficult for that capitalist class not to resist any move to stage a revolution. And then towards the end of his life, he did not talk about that violent revolution, especially in America and the United Kingdom, where working class had got political rights in the form of enfranchisement. He did talk about the possibility of a peaceful revolution, perhaps through parliament. So it's wrong to assume that Marx has said that it would definitely take place, and it is also wrong to assume that no revolutionary effort was made in those countries like Chartist movement in England. Once upon a time, it mounted certain powerful strikes and powerful agitation. It failed. That is a different reason, but Marx never said that the revolution has to take place in those countries or it's bound to take place in those countries. He said that perhaps material conditions that are prerequisite for a socialist revolution that existed there. So now let's talk about some fundamental points of Marx and see whether they are relevant or not. Let's talk about if this is a claim of Marx, which Acharya Prashant Sahab also talked about, that you cannot, one claim of Marx in a very simple term, I'm trying to simplify it. One of the claims of Marx is that you cannot grow rich by without exploiting others, without resorting to oppression, coercive apparatus of state, injustices, and I would add genocide and plundering. Where can Acharya Prashant Saab prove it wrong? For instance, United States is one of the richest countries of the world, or rather the richest country of the world. Which a student of history doesn't know that more than 55 million black slaves were dragged from their houses in Africa and brought like animals and were forced to work like animals. When Christopher Columbus landed Bahamas, according to Dr. Roy Cassandra, the population of Red Indian was around 125 million, and more than 100 million were decimated by these colonialists. And then, according to Howard Zinn, more than 80%, and this is what Christopher Clark has also said, more than 80% perished because of diseases, genocide, massacre, killings. So if the United States is the richest, in addition to that, millions of indentured labor were also brought to United States. Cotton, cotton, tobacco, sugar. These were the basic crops that benefited the United States immensely. And of course, they were tilled, or they were planted by slaves. That's why Howard Zinn said that there could not have been any industrialization in advanced capitalist world, or North America and Europe, if there were no plantation, and there could not have been any plantation if there were no slavery. So one could argue that if the United States is the richest country of the world, it is because of the ruthless exploitation of the black laborers, working class, or working classes of that country, and the indentured labors that were brought by different companies to the United States. And today, United States is the richest country of the world. Now, the United Kingdom is also one of the richest countries of the world. It is believed that more than 35 million people perished in Bihar, Bengal, Odisha's, famines and other famines. There has been a new research that claims that more than 100 million, got killed in India during the colonial times, British colonial time, because of the British policy. There has been a research of Columbia University uh, uh, conducted by an Indian intellectual Pathak, I think. I cannot pronounce his name, but he claimed $45 trillion was plundered from India alone. So the United Kingdom had around 22 colonies in Africa only, capturing different territories in the Caribbean as well, South and Central America and North America, capturing other territories in Asia and other parts of the world. And today it is one of the richest countries of the world. Not only this, it was also the first drugs empire, the first narcotics empire that plunged China into this abyss of what we call opium. And some of the richest Indian capitalists who are rich because of that trade, like some of the Parsi people are said to have been involved in the opium drugs as well. They were the collaborators. So the UK was accused of killing millions of people in India, in the other parts of world, in Kenya, in South Africa, and today it is also one of the richest countries of the world. Then we can talk about France. France is also one of the richest countries of the world, colonizing 18 countries in Africa alone, capturing regions or territories in Caribbean and other parts of the world, colonizing Indochina, killing more than 1 million people in Indochina and Algeria alone, exploiting different countries in the world. And today it's also one of the richest countries of the world. Then we can also talk about Belgium, Congo. If you make a list of maybe 50 richest countries, it would fall somewhere in that category. And it is accused of killing more than 1 million people in the Belgium, Congo, besides amputating a lot of people there. Possibly some people claim they also run into millions. And today it is also the richest, one of the richest countries of the world. So if you look at in a chronological order, we might see that during 14th century, Portuguese started venturing out after hearing about the gold of Mansi Musa, and naturally they ventured out in search of gold. And in 1492, Christopher Columbus started his journey towards Bahamas or the New World. And is it merely a coincidence that towards the end of 15th century and in the beginning of 16th century, Portugal and Spain were not only one of the most powerful countries in the world, but they were also among some of the richest countries of the world. Then when Spanish plunder Uncas, Aztec, and Maya empires, bringing gold and silver and other things from those continents. They were plundered by Dutch pirates, and one of the famous pirates whose name I cannot recall. It is said that the type of plundering that they carried out was enough to pay half of the debts of uh, Holland, or it contributed greatly to their economy. So in 15, towards the end of 15 and early 16th century, or to a great extent throughout the 16th century, it was Spain and Portugal that were rich and powerful because of that plundering, and then Netherlands jumped in and it also became one of the richest countries. And then Francis Drake, one of the pirates, British pirates, who would also plunder and rob, the ships, the Spanish ship coming from the New World. And it is also believed that the sort of plundering that he carried out was used to repay a considerable portion of the English debts as well. And then France and the UK jumped into this plundering and they also emerged as rich countries of the world. So it can be said that if, like for instance, if Queen Elizabeth's family is one of the richest families of the world, uh, one might argue as a student of history that their uh, families or extended families were involved in slave trade. Look at London Stock Exchange, corporations, insurance companies, banks, they were all involved, even prestigious universities or schools or colleges that were affiliated with those prestigious institute, newspaper like Guardian, Manchester, they were all involved in slave trades. So how can we forget, like, this was the one point of Marx, that you cannot become rich without exploiting other people, without carrying out without carrying out excesses or injustices. So Acharya Prashant Saab cannot prove historically that that is incorrect. So this is part one. I will talk about some other Marxist concept and pose this question to Acharya Prashant Saab whether he really believes that Marxism failed. So this is part one. I will continue with part two.